Were you scared? I was a little scared. I was like, oh, we just officially met and now Lilith is about to be eaten.
Have you ever read a book and totally pictured the wrong thing in your head?
Yes.
For some reason, I pictured Vale as this old, decrepit, I think I called him a Sith Lord. I don't know why.
Sith Lord Vale is my favorite. It just kind of is a great way to reframe a lot of situations
For sure.
in our lives. Maybe a more helpful way to look at things, a way that serves us better.
Good way to put it, for sure.
So kudos to Vale. Curiosity is the real treasure. Hi, and welcome to Romantasy Remedy. I'm Whitney.
And I'm Kenzie. We're sisters-in-law and book besties who thrive on daily doses of magic and romance from our favorite fantasy stories.
So, if your emotional support animal is a dragon and your therapist has shadow powers, you're in the right place. Thanks for being here and for liking, rating, and following our show. Before we get started, this is our official content warning. Simply put, Romantasy Remedy is a podcast for grown-ups. The topics and language will reflect that. Please listen at your comfort level.
And one more thing before we dive into Six Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent, our spoiler warning. For most of the episode, there will only be spoilers for chapters 1 through 6, but at the end of today's episode, we will have our Spoiler Central segment where we make connections to events later in the book and the entire Crowns of Nyaxia series. Don't worry, we'll give another big warning before Spoiler Central begins.
Thanks, Kenz. One of our goals at Romantasy Remedy is to highlight how books in this genre inspire readers. When we see characters facing fears, overcoming challenges, and growing into their potential, it helps us to do the same. So each week we'll choose a quote from the chapters we read to be an affirmation, a phrase to empower and motivate us. This week's affirmation says, "Time is the most valuable resource." We love this because everyone needs the reminder to spend our time on what matters most. Every minute, every moment counts. Whether it's appreciating the everyday or creating once-in-a-lifetime memories, time is indeed priceless. We base this affirmation on words spoken by Lilith. Keep listening to get all the details surrounding this amazing quote later in the episode. And don't forget, you can find a printable version of the affirmation in the show notes, so you can print it out and stick it on your mirror or your fridge or anywhere you'd like. And with that, Kenzie is going to recap what happened in this week's section of chapters.
It's so strange to be doing Six Scorched Roses this week.
Yeah, it threw me off when you said that instead of the Serpent and the Wings of Night. I was like, okay, yes, we have switched books. Okay.
We have switched. So welcome to Six Scorched Roses, where our heroine Lilith has basically been flirting with death her whole life. Almost died at birth? Check. Lost her mom? Check. Chronic illness? Double check. And now her town of Adkova, cursed crops and full-blown plague. We love a cheery setup. Her sister Mina is sick, but instead of sitting around, Lilith goes full chaos scientist. She sneaks off to a gothic mansion to ask a vampire for his blood. Enter Vale, broody, gorgeous, surrounded by dramatic furniture, and very confused about why this tiny human just invited herself in. Lilith drops her deal, 6 black roses for 6 blood collection visits. Vale, baffled but intrigued, agrees. Back home, Lilith peers at his blood through her magic science microscope like it's fine art. Spoiler, she can't stop staring at it. Then she pays a visit to her ex, Pharaoh. Worried that his ex is conducting experiments with vampire blood, Pharaoh begs her to stay safe, aka stay with him. She politely declines, and Lilith goes right back to Vale's, lets herself in again. Boundaries? Never heard of them, which is too bad because she accidentally interrupts Vale's little vampire date night. Awkward. But he still hands over more blood as they casually chat about love lives, turn vampires, and travel like they're sipping lattes at brunch.
Oh man, who's excited for Six Scorched Roses? I am. I'm excited.
It's a good one.
Before we really start our discussion about this, I wanted to touch on how this is one of the 2 standalone novellas in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. It features characters who are also in The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King and The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk.
Yes.
But if you accidentally skipped this novella before reading Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, like me, you won't be lost. I just think that reading it beforehand really enriches the interactions with Lilith and Vale later on in those books. Same can be said for the other standalone novel, Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. That one needs to be read sometime before you read The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk, since Atreus and Selena are in that novel. I suspect they'll also be in the Bloodborne duology, but don't quote me on that. That is totally just my theory. So I wanted to ask you, Kenz, were you glad that you read Six Scorched Roses before you read Ashes and the Star-Cursed King?
I am. I have to thank you for that because you gave me that like spreadsheet or that little thing about what the suggested reading order was.
Yes, Carissa has a couple posts about it on her Instagram of what order you can approach the book. She has a few different options, actually.
Does she?
Anyway.
Okay. Well, you sent me this one, and I'm glad you did because I think is it the Ashes and Starborn King? Is that what it is?
Star-Cursed King.
Cursed King.
Unlike Bryce and Rundanen, who are Starborn.
Star-Cursed King.
That'd be a cool crossover, though. Like, Rain does kind of look like he could be related to the Autumn King in Crescent City.
100%. Let's talk
if he was a vampire.
That. All right. Because they do pop up in that one. Actually, they don't just pop up in it. They are somewhat heavily involved. I think I would have just kind of like, all right, side characters, but now because I know their story and how they are coming into it, it just put a spin on it that I think makes you understand maybe their roles a little better. I will say, jumping into it, I was probably in I like to call it my hangover phase because remember where we left with Rain and Araya? So I think I was like a little bitter. Like I don't care
about you people. I want to know what's going on with Rain and Araya.
Who the hell's Lilith? So, but once I got into it, of course, like any book, it takes you a minute to get into it. But I had a little more of a hangover because I had just left. But
totally fair.
I do think like if anyone asked me, like I would recommend reading it in this order for sure.
Yes. Same for me. I did accidentally skip it because I didn't know it existed. And I was very eager to know what happened with Rain and Araya. So I just went and plowed right through Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. And then I realized that this novella existed and went back and read it. But when I went and reread the entire series for this podcast and for the release of Fall and the Kiss of Dusk, it made the moments with Vale and Lilith in Ashes so much more meaningful and almost more fun because I knew more about them, and it just made more sense the way they were portrayed. So
I feel like to have any kind of like investment in a character, you need to know something. So like if you had read Ashes and not had that investment, like you know. So agree.
For sure.
Thank you for sending that to me because it made my reading experience great.
You're welcome. I do what I can.
Thank you. Whitney is she holds my hand through these romantasy journeys, and I love her for it.
Okay,
so
but our listeners should know that you were the one who got me started on romantasy books. You were the one who recommended ACOTAR, and that's where it all began. So
no, it's true. And then you took it and ran with it, and I love it.
Some might call it a problem, but it's okay. It's okay.
It's definitely not a problem. There could be worse, right?
It's true. We'll tell ourselves that.
Yes. So, like The Serpent and the Wings of Night, Carissa Broadbent has divided this book up into parts, but instead of phases of the moon, we get roses. So, part 1 is titled The First Rose. And unlike The Serpent and the Wings of Night, there are no interludes. So we just dive right into chapter 1 and meet our main character, though her name isn't shared in this chapter. So you'll have to wait for that one. And this, well, we've already told you, but this is not a sunshine and rainbows opening whatsoever, because the very first sentence talks about meeting death. And in fact, she describes that the first 3 times, not just one time meeting death, first 3 times she
Jeez
met
Louise.
death. I know. One was when she was born and almost died. 2, when her sister was born and her mother actually died. And then 3, when this plague that they're experiencing right now starts killing everyone in her town, Adkova. Will you read what she says about that 3rd time she met death?
We are off to a bright, happy start. So,
Yeah.
yes, here's what she says. But the 3rd time I met death, it hadn't come for me. It was given to the town of Adkova like a silk blanket, settling slowly over our lives, placed there by one of the gods themselves. Like all the other gods, Vitaris is a fickle and emotional being. The difference between excess and absence, a mere whim of his moods. Entire lives, entire towns, made or unmade by a thoughtless wave of his hand. Oh, Carissa Broadbent, in her beautiful writing.
I know, that silk blanket.
Yes, I love the imagery of the silk blanket, and this is also great world building. The people of Adkova mainly worshipped the god of abundance, Vitaris, and Vitaris is a member of the White Pantheon, just like Atraxis, Ix, and Kashmar, who were mentioned in The Serpent and the Wings of Night.
Honestly, I
And
can't ever think of Ix without saying Ix's tits. Like, that's how I
thank
will
you,
always
Rain.
picture Ix.
Thank you, Rain. Absolutely. And we go on to learn that our narrator believes her own father is the reason for the plague in
Right.
Adkova. She shares a memory of seeing him kneeling outside amongst their withered crops, cursing Vitaris. And the plague began shortly after that. So her father actually died first in the plague, and then many others in the town followed. And this has been happening now for 15 years. So, a long time. In that time, she's been learning all about this disease, brewing medicine, and still hasn't quite figured it out. In fact, she says that so much lived in that gap, the gap between things I knew and the things I didn't. And I can sense her frustration with this whole situation and with not being able to find answers. I'm sure that's something we can all relate to at some point, having kind of that gap between things we know and things we don't know, and being really
Yes.
frustrated when we're in the gap between those two things, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like, life definitely takes us each through seasons, right? Where we don't have answers to the problems.
Yeah.
And that can be extremely challenging. Add to it, it's 15 years.
It's a long time.
It's
Long time.
extremely challenging. The scene then shifts to the narrator preparing to leave to run some kind of errand. And her description suggests it's a dangerous errand because she's trying to leave things so organized that someone could continue her work even if she doesn't come back, which is curious and interesting. It made me
Yes,
go,
very.
I'd never leave my house in a state where someone would know what I was doing. It's anyone's
Same.
guess.
Same. Mine is a free for all. So
For real.
people would probably walk in and be like, I don't know. Don't
Like,
know. Don't want to
Couldn't
know.
tell you. Exactly. So it's very curious, but even more curious is that she goes to her backyard to clip a single rose to take with her. Please note that literally nothing else is growing in her backyard except for this rose bush, apparently. And after picking
Okay.
the rose, we meet the narrator, this person's sister, Mina. And Mina is obviously not well, as evidenced by the description of her dark fingernails, heavy breathing, and what one might describe as a layer of skin dust. Is there an actual disease that causes your skin to fall off like dust?
I don't know. I hope
I don't-
not. Sounds
I remember,
awful.
do you ever hear people talking or you read things and you're like, you
You,
feel
start-
itchy? Yes, I
Yeah.
had that a
Yep.
little bit ooh.
Yes, yes.
Before leaving, the narrator considers telling her dying sister that she loves her, but then she doesn't. She explains, besides, a word was useless compared to what I was about to do. I could show my love in medicine and math and science. I couldn't show it to her in an embrace, and what good would a thing like that do anyway? What did you think when you first read that? Because it's such an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to think at first. Honestly, I kind of thought Sure, but would it kill you to just be like, love you, bye? That being said, as the book progresses and her character develops, this makes more sense. And I also want to throw out there, when this book comes up amongst fans of Carissa Broadbent's work, there are many, many people who really connect to Lilith and feel like her character resonates with them because they also struggle with some of the things that she struggles with.
Right.
And so, despite my initial impression of this moment, I kind of grew to appreciate Lilith's honesty about stuff like this.
Yes,
And it's cool that other people feel really connected to her over that.
for sure.
Speaking of which, this is the moment we finally learn her name
Yeah.
because Mina says her name. She says Lilith. Welcome to the chat, Lilith, officially. So Lilith leaves Mina and walks for a while until she gets to this very gaudy, intimidating
Yes.
mansion. She knocks and no one answers. After 4 more tries knocking, still nobody answers. This straight up to me when I was reading it felt like a horror movie. I'd be like, too bad, so sad. I'm going home. Nobody's answering the door.
After the first knock, I'm not going to sit there and
For
keep knocking.
sure, for sure. But Lilith thinks to herself, well, this is the stupidest thing I've ever done, and just lets herself in. So at first, she doesn't see anyone, and mind you, as the reader, we don't know what this place is. Not
Right.
yet. And so the things that she says next are kind of little clues. And these are what she thinks. She thinks, no one has seen him in decades. Does his kind even rot? So her thoughts are then interrupted by a deep voice saying, it appears a little mouse has made its way into my home. Were you scared? I was a little scared. I was like, oh, we just officially met and now Lilith is about to be eaten.
I would have turned and ran. But again, I would have knocked more than once. I would have been like, I tried.
Yeah, I tried.
I did my duty. Again, now I'm leaving.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I was nervous for Lilith too, because when he's like a little mouse, it's like that makes her seems like such prey, right? So I'm like,
And yeah, like
oh.
he's the cat.
Exactly. So, but that makes her reaction even better because despite some initial fear, she's mostly just curious, which makes her character so fun.
Mhm.
Here's how she describes the mansion's owner. Tall, but not demonstrably so. No horns or wings. Long, slightly wavy brown hair. Neatly trimmed beard. Outdated but simple clothes. Bright amber eyes. And fangs. We've got ourselves a vampire. So
Of course.
let's have a quick side note here because Whitney knows this. Have you ever read a book and totally pictured the wrong thing in your head?
Yes.
For some reason, when I read this book, I pictured Vale as this old, decrepit. I think I called him a Sith Lord earlier, just the skin sinking, and you're like, clearly he's not good looking, trim beard. I don't know why I could not get I just that Nosferatu is what I saw in my.
Sith Lord Vale is my favorite.
I did. That's all I saw, which will make something later in this book even more interesting. Because I'm like, anyways, like I said, though, Lilith isn't scared. She's not scared. In fact, she goes, maybe he was used to being cowered at. I did not cower. Why should I? I'd already met death 3 times now. So far, the 4th was a bit of a disappointment. She is so funny. And she has such a dry, it's not even a dry sense of humor. She's so dry, she's funny.
Right. And I wonder if that statement, though, to her wasn't even supposed to be funny. It was just, just a total statement of fact. This is a disappointment. And you're
right. Exactly. She doesn't even
Yeah.
know she's funny.
Right.
And she tells him that she brought him a gift and she will give it to him in exchange for a favor. I love how she just, I'm here. This is what I have. Deal?
Yeah.
And then she actually invites herself to sit down. So funny. She's comical. And he's all, do you not know where you are? And she's like, what a dumb question.
Super loving Lilith. And how awkward she makes our vampire man feel here.
Yeah.
They start walking to a sitting room, and Lilith thinks about how the house is simultaneously a huge mess and the most beautiful place she's ever seen. So that's fun. Lilith is like, "So, what house are you in, Toby Trace? House Knight?"
She's just so funny because she's just so cut and dry with it.
Yes. And he is so confused that she actually knows things about vampires and that she isn't at all concerned for her safety. During this conversation, we do learn Mr. Vampire's name, Vale, and Lilith calls him Lord Vale. Speaking of like picturing things the wrong way, I totally thought of Lord Lord Voldemort.
That's not any better.
No, I was getting all kinds of like Lord Voldemort vibes, and that really doesn't help our problem of picturing Vale
No.
incorrectly. An old man Lord Voldemort Sith Lord combination. So here we go. Lilith goes on to further shock Lord Vale by saying she needs some of his blood to help develop a cure for the plague in Adkova. Again, comical because she's the human and she's asking the vampire for some blood. So that's funny. At first, Vale just flat out refuses, and his explanation for refusing is that he decided 200 years ago to never do something again that he didn't want to do. And that sentence made me kind of get why you thought he was a grumpy old man.
For sure.
But Lilith then shows him the rose that she brought and promises one rose every time she visits for blood samples, which will be 6. Catch that? 6 roses. 6 scorched roses, perhaps. Kenz, what goes through Lilith's mind as Vale is examining this rose?
Right. So here's actually what Lilith says about the way Vale is staring at the rose. It looked a bit familiar, and I couldn't place why until I realized that it was the stare of a scientist, someone used to analyzing things and taking them apart. A little spark of relief came with this realization, because that, at least, was something I understood. She actually goes on to say that despite them being so different in every possible way, the fact that he had a scientific view of things meant she had more in common with him than most of the people she grew up with. Because as we'll learn with her, she's kind of the oddball of the village, I would say, right? So the good news here is that Vale and Lilith are off to a good start. Bad news is that poor Lilith probably felt so lonely and disconnected. Can you imagine feeling more connected to a vampire you met 5 minutes ago than people you've lived with your whole life?
Yeah, I mean, that's wild. And it does, I think, give you a lot of insight into her character, right?
Yes.
And into how she's grown up and how she interacts with the world. So,
Right.
very telling moment, very good, like, characterization moment for Lilith.
Agreed. And Vale actually shocks her because he agrees to the deal out of curiosity, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe.
But he
I
agrees.
don't know either. Yeah.
So Lilith gets her equipment out to draw his blood, and she observes his, again, so threw me off, because this is not what I pictured in my head, even though I was reading these words, his smooth tan skin and jasmine scent. Of course.
Ooh la la.
And they have a brief conversation about knowledge where Lilith expresses that knowledge is the most valuable thing. And Vale, on the other hand, says that knowledge isn't the real treasure, curiosity is. What do you make of Vale's claim that curiosity is the real treasure, more so than knowledge?
I kind of love it because I think that curiosity eventually leads to knowledge. And without curiosity, we don't really gain knowledge. I mean, that's where questions start and the quest for knowledge begins, right? I think also viewing the world with curiosity is really healthy. Like it's such a neutral and helpful emotion that we get to feel. For example, if we're like tempted to be angry or judgmental of ourselves or of others, what if we're just curious instead? This is like a silly example. Someone cuts you off in traffic and you get angry. But what if you were curious? So instead of being like, oh, they're so dumb, you just say, I wonder what's going on for them today. I wonder why they're in such a hurry.
Right.
Like, I'm so curious. It just kind of is a great way to reframe a lot of situations
For sure.
in our lives. Maybe a more helpful way to look at things, a way that serves us better. That's my
I
thought
think that's
anyway.
a good way to put it, for sure.
Yeah. And so kudos to Vale. I love it. I actually thought about making that the affirmation, but I chose something else instead. But I do love this from Vale, that curiosity is the real treasure. It's a good one.
Yes.
Lilith leaves his house and arrives home at the beginning of part 2, the second rose. And she goes in and projects Vale's blood using her seeing lens. That's what she calls it. And basically, it's this instrument that combines both science and magic. And to me, I kind of understood it to be almost like a microscope, but also a projector. So she's
Right.
able to like see this image of his blood up on the wall. And it's worth noting, I can't remember if it's in this passage or later, but something to notice for world building's sake, this device or the seeing lens is made possible because of Serana, who is a goddess of the White
Right.
Pantheon. And we know that the White Pantheon is not on good terms with Nyaxia. So Vale being a vampire, and this is vampire blood, Lilith basically has to be careful how long she lets the
Right.
vampire blood interact with the seeing lens. If it's too long, it kind of starts like smoking and self-combusting. Like, so it's just something about the vampire magic interacting with the White Pantheon magic.
Right.
They don't jive. They don't go together.
Right.
So
Right.
just something to know about our world here and how the magic works. But Lilith really jives with his vampire blood. She's like kind of obsessed with it, and she thinks
Right.
it's beautiful. And she thinks it's amazing that it's really healthy considering how old Vale is.
Right.
He's hundreds of years old, and
Right.
his blood is not decaying. It's very healthy. So she actually like goes and looks at it every 10 minutes because she's so transfixed by it. And this goes on for the next few days. So she decides to take it to a nearby city where she attended a university and show Vale's blood to her ex-lover and fellow scientist, Pharaoh. How does
Yes.
that visit go, Kenz?
So interesting, right? Because Pharaoh is fascinated by the blood as well, but Lilith doesn't tell him it's vampire blood right away. So he figures it out, though, and immediately starts trying to talk her out of whatever she's doing. He even invites her to stay with him so that they can figure out a solution together instead of her continuing down whatever path she started. And while Lilith appreciates the fact that Pharaoh likes her when most people seem not to, she knows she doesn't reciprocate his feelings, I guess. And she feels like it wouldn't be fair to Pharaoh when she knows she'll die sooner than most. Again,
Gotcha.
makes me sad for Lilith, sad that she put so much effort into her interactions with others only to be constantly misunderstood, and sad that she feels like she isn't deserving of a relationship because she expects to die young.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of sad. I mean,
It is
that's
sad.
the best word for it, right? It seems like it would be hard to be excited about the future and your day with these kind of thoughts tumbling around your head all
Right.
the time. Pharaoh is such an interesting character. Like,
He is.
I think he loves Lilith. I think he cares about her a lot. And
It's genuine and
I don't know.
sincere, for
Yeah.
sure.
that's a great word for it. He does seem very sincere. So I don't feel like he was in any way trying to like manipulate her back
No.
into a relationship with him. I think he was generally concerned about her safety.
Yes.
And though I do appreciate that she's like, I can't in good conscience like give you a relationship. A, I'm gonna die. B, I don't feel the same way.
Right.
But
Right.
I don't know. I think they're both sincere. It's a shame that like they didn't work out for
Yeah.
each other because they're just both sincere people, and I like
Right.
them. So
I do
I
too.
don't know.
And I'm glad that she has at least someone other than a vampire at the beginning at the beginning of the book, right? That will
Yes.
actually connect and talk with her.
Absolutely.
So the next thing we know, it's past midnight and Lilith is back at Vale's mansion. And Lilith is concerned because she hears yelling when she gets to the mansion. Remember, she went to the mansion before, no one was there, no one answered. Well, someone was there, no one answered. But this time she goes and someone's yelling. So
Right.
tell
Well,
us what.
she does knock first, right?
No,
and
she
no
knocks.
one answers.
No one answers. So someone was
So
there,
she just
but they
lets
just
herself
didn't
in
answer.
again.
Right. But now she gets
And then
there
she
there's
hears the yelling.
Yeah. Which is, tell us, Whitney. Tell us what she goes to investigate.
So I think it suggested that she was worried that maybe like Vale was sucking somebody's blood or something. Being
Right.
the vampire. But no. Once she goes to investigate, she finds out that Vale is actually just doing the deed with a redheaded vampire chick. So
Remember, this is a Sith Lord.
And this is where Kenzie was like, wait, what is happening?
I think I actually texted you and was like, I
You're
can't.
like, wait, this is not what I signed up for, Whitney. What is going on?
No.
That's hilarious.
And I had to
Oh my
go
gosh.
back and reread. This is not what he looks like.
Is that when I sent you fan art? I was like, no,
Yes.
this is what Vale looks like.
That is
Fix this image.
That is exactly what you did, and it
That's
helped
funny.
me throughout the rest of the book, so thank you.
Good. I'm glad. Because Lilith can't bring herself to look away from Vale's naked hiney. So if you're picturing...
It was so bad. It was so bad. Your fan art saved the night.
If you're picturing Sith Lord naked hiney,
I did.
That's a problem.
It's like, I can't.
Oh my gosh. That's so great. Yeah, but Lilith, she cannot stop looking. So
It's gotta be good.
when Vale realizes that she's there, he is not super happy about it.
No.
It's kind of hilarious because, like, the redheaded vampire chick notices she's there too. She's like, oh, are you going to join us? Come in.
Hey.
And then Vale's like, no. Everyone stay where you are. His guest leaves and she's just like, thanks for the hospitality, Vale. Bye. And then we never see her again, like ever, in all of Crowns of
Right.
Meraxia. And that's a little unusual. Usually when someone like pops up, like there's a reason. But no, she's just a sex buddy and that's it. So I feel like we should name her.
No, we should name her. And
Ginger
I'm also
Spice.
curious because all the vampires are in like Obertrace. So you've got Vale out here at Kova. Where'd she come
Yeah.
from?
It's
Where'd
true.
she
Where
come
did
from?
she come from?
Yeah.
So many
Interesting.
questions.
But yeah,
Anyway,
just a good sex
his
buddy. There
guest
you go.
leaves, and then Vale puts on a robe, and Lilith is kind of really entertained by this robe. She kind of starts making fun of him and says that the robe is very vampiric. So I think she says that because it's like really outdated by like 100 years. So I kind of picture a robe like Ebenezer Scrooge wears on his nighttime journey.
Sith Lord
a
and
Christmas
Ebenezer
Carol.
Scrooge. We're really helping everybody out today, for sure.
I hope you guys have a solid picture.
Post some fan art on the Instagram page.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to.
clear this all up.
But he's in his Ebenezer Scrooge robe. And she gives him a rose and calls him Lord Vale. Sorry, I'm going to start laughing again because this line's hilarious. So she's like, here's your rose, Lord Vale. And he goes, you can just call me Vale. I suppose that once someone has seen my bare ass, we can drop the titles. Oh my gosh. Well, they continue making jabs at each other, like about their love lives. And then the conversation lands on born versus turned vampires, which I think Lilith just brings it up purely out of curiosity. And Vale is like insulted that Lilith can't tell he's obviously a born vampire. Obviously. Lilith.
Clearly. Yeah.
He does not have complimentary things to say about the turned vampires. Lilith, because she's brilliant, challenges him, saying that their strength to survive the turning process surely indicates they are the strongest among the vampires. And Vale, like, has a moment, like, where his mouth opens and closes and he has nothing to say. He has no comeback. And he kind of, like, starts being all butthurt and mean. Like, how dare you, like, be smarter than me?
A butthurt vampire's got to be a bad situation.
Right? He gets a little sassy with Lilith about how, she went to study at a university only 10 whole miles away from her home. And Lilith says that not everyone has the resources to travel. And Vale thinks that she means money, but she does not. What is she talking about, Kenz, when she says that?
Yeah, Lilith actually clarifies it by saying, time is the most valuable resource of all, and some of us are perpetually short. And of course, this is where our inspiration for today's affirmation. Time is the most valuable resource. And for a variety of reasons, right? Many of us feel that we are also perpetually short on time. I know I do. Never enough time in the day. And Lilith is very intentional with her time. And perhaps we can learn from her. Whatever time we have control of, we can choose to spend it in a way that aligns with our values. Anything you want to add about today's affirmation?
Just that I love that reminder to be intentional with our time. I'm so guilty of acting like I have all the time in the world and forgetting to spend time on what truly matters to me, which is usually things like relationships, family, friendships, and things that just like feed my soul. So I love this reminder. And I love any excuse to leave my laundry unfolded in a laundry basket a little longer because who needs to do that? Not me.
Right.
Maybe that's where I will stick the affirmation this week. I will print it out and I will stick it right on the laundry basket and just walk away from it over and over again and not feel guilty about it
Right.
at all.
Excuse is always good.
Oh my gosh.
And that's where we are actually going to end our exploration of Six Scorched Roses for today. One of the best parts of reading is learning things that help us with this messy adventure we call life. Each episode, we're going to share a true story that connects to lessons learned in the chapters we read. And so I'm actually going to share kind of just a continuation of our conversation about time being the most valuable resource. And I actually want to talk about my husband. I'm not very good at sharing like actual stories, just more things I see in other people that I kind of want to replicate, right? And my husband is so good at this. He lives that truth too every day, no matter how busy life gets. He always makes a priority to show up. So much so, if you know my husband, he likes to lift weights and work out. He goes to the gym at 3 a.m. to make sure that he is home every night with our kids. I would never. I would never. I would never. And he doesn't just do it for the milestones, but for the small everyday moments too. Whether it's a school performance or a kid's game or just bedtime stories. He cracks me up because I will read these books to our kids and I know how these books go because I have them memorized. That is a different story every time he reads these books because he makes up his own stories. Specifically, my kids always ask for Jeremiah the Tooting Bullfrog. I have no idea how
I feel
that
like
story
I've heard
goes,
about this
but
one.
he is his special treat. And it's so funny because we were actually in the car and that song came on and it's like Jeremiah was a bullfrog. And my kids were like, Dad talks about him. I was like, yeah, I bet he did.
That is so funny.
But
My
he
gosh.
treats each one like they matter. And because of him, we actually do like, there's just small little traditions. Like this weekend, it was my daughter's birthday, and he makes sure every year they have a big balloon, a big number balloon, so they can hold it. And it's just those traditions and that time that he spends caring for those little things that I really feel like our kids will remember. And he creates the memories, showing up with love and making sure they always feel seen and validated. And that time isn't just money, it's love and memories and connections. And I love him for reminding me of that because I get bogged down with chores and I have a hard time not, I'll use laundry as an
Absolutely.
excuse.
Absolutely. Well, and I love that you shared this today, and it's totally true. He is so good at just like being present in the moment and connecting with people in a really authentic and fun way. And I feel like he's been like that the whole time I've known him.
Yeah.
So I love that you shared that about him today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before we go, let's take a moment to express gratitude to a character who we admire from this stretch of chapters. And today's note is for Lilith. So here
Yay,
it goes.
Lilith.
Dear Lilith, thank you for reminding us that bravery doesn't always come with a sword. It can also look like a storming into a vampire's mansion and casually asking for blood samples. Bold choice, iconic execution. You didn't go do it for the glory or recognition. You did it for your sister, for your town, for the people who needed you most, even when they didn't always understand you. That kind of determination to keep pushing forward when others doubt you is the mark of a true heroine. Thank you for asking the hard questions and daring to pursue answers in unconventional ways. It's messy, it's risky, but it's exactly what hope looks like when the world is falling apart. We admire your courage, your persistence, and your refusal to accept the easy path when lives are on the line. So, from your friends at Romantasy Remedy, Lilith, thank you.
Thank you, Lilith, and thank you, Kenzie, for
Yeah.
having this book chat with me about Six Scorched Roses.
I
I'm
can't
so
believe
excited
it.
to be starting this new journey with you.
I know.
Thank you, everybody who listened today. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would love to hear comments from you on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you are listening today. So please go leave us some comments. Let us know what you think. And also, please join us next week as we continue exploring Six Scorched Roses. We have reached the end of the main portion of our episode. Thank you so much for listening. Look for Romantasy Remedy on Instagram and TikTok. Check the show notes for those links, as well as links to the printable affirmation and soundtrack playlist on Spotify.
We're really looking forward to connecting with you and nerding out over all the best romantasy. After this, we'll begin the spoiler central segment of the episode, which you shouldn't listen to if you haven't finished the entire series, including the rest of this book. We're totally those book besties where one of us reads at a normal speed and one of us reads faster than you can winnow from here to Valaris. Since Whitney is a speed reader, I'm going to duck out while she does spoiler central.
All right, you've been warned. Here come the spoilers. This will be short and sweet today. The only thing I want to talk about in Spoiler Central today is Vale not liking turned vampires and saying they're undesirable. Well, that's funny because by the end of this book, Vale will turn Lilith and be totally in love with her. And then in Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, he'll pledge his loyalty to a turned Rishon king, his royal majesty, Rain Ashraj. Though Rain questions Vale's loyalty because he used to be one of Nekulai's nobles when Rain was a slave. After Kyrus betrays Rain and Vale doesn't betray Rain, he and Vale have an interesting conversation. And here's what Vale says. Things are different than they were. In those days, I was more committed to the House of Night than I was to anything. It was the only love I knew. I let it define me, and that meant letting Nekulai define me. I did not question the things he did or the way he treated those beneath him. What my king said was truth, and when he treated his turned slaves as possessions, I didn't question that, even if I didn't agree with it. And to be clear, I didn't agree with it. Not then, not now. But you are right. Not agreeing was not enough. I was complacent. And if it had been Lilith, then Rain cuts in and says, it never will be. Vale responds, I know that as long as you are king, it never will be. Love how Vale has changed his perception of turned vampires. Love that he respects and is loyal to Rain in Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. And thank you, Lilith, for knocking some sense into him, you brilliant, reckless woman. All right, that's all I have for Spoiler Central today. Thank you for listening to Romantasy Remedy. Please join us again next week as we continue exploring Six Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. Bye.